Good. Okay. Right. We're here. Hello. Welcome to the Stratford Experience show. Here we are at the Everyman Cinema in Stratford upon Avon. And you can see we have a few people milling around in the courtyard at Bell Court. So first of all, I'd like to thank the Everyman Cinema, the managers here, for letting us film here today, Saturday the 9th of December. So we're just a couple of weeks out from Christmas. And again, I'd like to thank, so Dave and Viv were the managers that I met when I came in and asked them if it'd be okay to film here. And they were very open to that, so that was lovely. They said, yeah, no problem, absolutely fine. We actually wanted to do something to engage the community a bit more. We felt we were kind of on the edge of things. So that was an opportunity for them, which matched what I wanted to do. So that was great. So thank you very much for that. And they've turned the music down a bit for us so we can hear ourselves. Now, we've got a crew here. They're all volunteers, professional crew, videographers and sound recorders. So we've got, again, like the first episode, we've got Henry and his wife, Chris. I don't know whether anybody's got a shot of that. And then we've got Alex here, who's actually one of my neighbours. So he's come on board today, which is great. And then we have Andrew doing the sound. So I like to show off a bit and say he's recorded sound for the BBC, so that sounds very good. And then we have Stuart here, who's taking still shots, capturing moments. So that's lovely. I say all volunteers, so we've done this entirely on a zero budget. We filmed the first episode. I'm going to introduce my guest in a minute, but I'm going to introduce him right now, actually. Kevin Taylor.
Thank you very much.
Kevin Taylor, welcome.
Pleasure to be here.
Yes.
And I know all about working on zero budgets.
Right.
And how difficult it can be.
Well, it's interesting. The thing with that is that if it happens, it means that everybody's on board. Everybody's on the same page, and they all.
But it's a pleasure to be here. Wonderful venue.
Yes.
And thank you very much for the invitation.
Well, thanks for accepting it, and thanks for turning up.
Pleasure.
That's always a good thing. Actually, people actually turning up. I thought it was a good venue because we've got this view out the back there of the people milling around. It's quite busy today, fairly busy, isn't it? We've got the Victorian
Christmas market.
Christmas market.
Extravaganza.
Which is filling up the streets. We're going to have some footage. We've got some footage of that, which we're going to put into the edit. So we're filming today, and then we're going to edit it, and it'll be put out hopefully in time for Christmas. So we have also a little bit of an audience here gathered. They're sat there, and we sat here. My mum's there, and we also have Marcin, who's come along to play us some music to create an ambiance, set the mood, and it's a great opportunity for people in the community to meet each other. You know, that's part of it. So the whole idea of doing this was to create a platform where we can have a proper conversation, a civilized human being to human being conversation, good-natured and so on, about things that we need to talk about here in Stratford.
Yeah, I think that's very important.
Yeah.
I think from a as a resident now, without any office in town, I think most residents never feel that they have the opportunity to do that. Even if you choose to speak at meetings in either of the councils, you're limited to a very, very short period of time and don't always get the response or the answers that you're actually looking for. So a platform like this, really, if you could attract some of the key people, stakeholders in town to participate in them, maybe would be a good opportunity for public to be able to ask the questions that they really want answering.
Excellent, excellent. And a bit later on, I'm going to ask you about that term stakeholders. What does that actually mean? Who are these stakeholders? And am I not a stakeholder if I'm a resident here?
Yeah.
I suppose I am. So perhaps we should talk a little bit about, I think I thanked everybody. Have I thanked everybody? Oh, a couple of things that we just need to cover. This is part of the, there's a little bit of a structure developing. The first show we did, I didn't even know what I was going to say. I didn't know whether I was going to have a guest to talk to. Fortunately, somebody did come up and sit in the empty chair. And we set a tone, really. I think that's what we did. We set a tone. We proved that we could organise this. We could film the thing and we could put it out there. We could produce a quality product. But the whole idea is to create a platform where we can have this conversation, but also to, in the process, bring the community together. So at these filmings in future, they may get bigger in terms of the audience that are attracted to come. We may have bigger venues, and so people can come, and we've had some music here playing to create a nice ambience. People get to meet each other that haven't met before. Mm-hmm. And then we do a bit of filming for an hour or so. We have that entertainment, if you like. And then afterwards,
I have watched the first one. And
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
You've actually watched it?
Of course, yeah. And I actually like the concept of what you're achieving here and what you're trying to achieve. And I think it would be great to take it round to different venues all around town. And I'm sure as it develops, that audience will get larger and larger. So keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, Kevin. You're very encouraging and you're a very enthusiastic chap. So I should probably just talk a little bit about who you are, because I mean a lot of people probably know you because you were a former mayor.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about me and you. Where we are in our relationship, because it's only quite recent, this year in fact, that we actually spoke to each other.
Exactly. For me, I'd obviously, I pay a great deal of attention to everything that goes on in town, and I like to hear different people's opinions on what they perceive is good and bad in the town and district. And I'd obviously been aware of you for some time and the comments and on social media, and I think what really drew my attention was your emphasis on trying to rescue, really, the River Festival and the debacle that you had at the bandstand. And I thought that, I quite admired what you tried to achieve there. And then by chance, we just met. We were walking along Riverside one day, and we bumped into you by the little footbridge.
It was actually on the tramway.
Yes,
we did have a conversation there.
Yeah.
But the first time that we met, I was sat on the bench.
That's correct.
The cricket ground.
Yeah.
And I was sat there after the debacle.
Correct. Yeah.
Sitting there. That's one of the benches I sit on, and
as we've all done.
Just think about what I'm going to do next.
Yeah.
And we'd had that episode with the festival, and I was sitting there sort of probably thinking about how do I respond to this? What happens next? Wondering why did I even bother trying? All those things go through your mind. And you walked by with a group of people, and you went, "What did you say? Good job on that.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done for doing that."
I mean, sometimes, I quite like. I mean, people may describe individuals as mavericks or, crazy in some ways. I think some people say the same about me sometimes.
Right.
But my head is full of ideas. I often describe my mind as in here it's almost like a constant flow of post-it notes with that come into my mind of
Right.
what I'm going to do next, or projects that I think can be delivered, or things I see, oh God, I could improve that. I don't always get a chance to write them all down, but I like that creative element of questioning, a creativity and questioning routine and why routine hasn't happened, or how routine can be changed.
Right.
And
right.
so there was an element there that I felt that you were being, in my personal opinion, that you were trying to do some good, and that red tape was stopping you from doing it.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, and it wasn't just red tape actually, but we'll get on to that. So that was about, the festival was in July the 8th, and I think I met you at the end of July or August, somewhere around that time, wasn't it, on the tramway. And you made that comment, and then you also shared a bit of information about the budget that the festival usually had.
Yeah.
And there was a question over. Well, we'll get on to all
Get to that later.
I do want to talk a bit about you, I suppose, and your relationship with Stratford, just to introduce people to,
Well, obviously, I'm not a Stratfordian, as people. I've lived here since 2005.
2005.
And
okay.
my love affair with the town really started, like everyone's does, as a visitor. And I pre-2005, I was working in the licensing trade. I was a publican in Stratford-on-Severn, and I used to come to Stratford on my days off. And I sort of fell in love with the place. I loved the atmosphere. It was always really busy. There was a great vibe about the town. And in the end, I thought, wow, this is the place that I'm going to retire to. And then in 2005, I moved jobs. I went back into manufacturing, and I had to relocate. And I thought, let's go to Stratford now. So I moved here in 2005. Spent a lot of time in the town centre.
You like all that busyness?
I think in whatever town and city you visit, the centre for me is the most important part of it.
The heart.
It's the heart of the town.
Okay.
And I think if you can make that almost perfection, you have a very happy community.
Yes.
If you've got a happy community, if you tourists will thrive on what you've got there. There will be a balance between the two. And if you look at this town as an example, most residents will always say, or a high percentage of residents always believe the balance is more in the visitor enhancement than resident. So I spent a huge amount of time in that town centre. And even before becoming a councillor, I got to know many business owners. I'd listen to their perception of the town, things they didn't like, things that they did like. I met many residents in those hospitality areas, some of them here today. And then I listened to their perception. So it was almost even before becoming a councillor, I'd built up this huge knowledge of what people actually wanted or what their issues were.
You'd done your own survey. So between 2005, when you arrived, you moved here in 2005.
So 2018.
We'll get on to that. Okay. So can everybody hear us okay over the audio? Can you hear?
Is it okay?
You're
loud enough?
You might want to be a bit nearer. Maybe a bit nearer, Paul.
I'm not loud enough. Well, that's the first time ever anyone has said that.
Tom's the sound engineer. Well, we want the audience to hear, of course, but the main thing is the sound. Good. So that's kind of what I do as well. When I go about my business and I go and get a coffee and I go to the shops, I talk to people. And they seem to tell me things. That's something I've noticed. People seem to share things with me. About how they feel and what's going on and so on. So you obviously find the same thing, and you think, hang on, what do I do with all this information?
Exactly.
Do I just how do I respond to it? So you accumulated this library of information about Stratford, and perhaps you felt like it could be improved.
Well, I think what the next stage in that really was that as a resident, when I first came here, as I said, that love affair was still there, and I'm thinking, wow, it's amazing. You know, we did things very well. And then gradually from 2005, I would say, to about 2010, I then sort of started to see things slip away in certain areas, things disappeared or things weren't happening quite as well. And I think that's what really started my questioning and saying, how does this happen? Why do these things change? Who makes the decisions? And I always remember asking a question once of something, and it was my first contact with councils, and I make contact with the first one, and I say, I've got this issue, can you help me with it? And they went, oh, that's not us. You need to speak to them, and here's the phone number. And so then I phoned the next one, and the next one went, oh, that's not us. You need to speak to them. And by then I'm infuriated, and I'm thinking, in manufacturing, which is where I'd spent most of my employed life,
Right.
if a customer phoned up and said, I'm not happy with this service, I'm not happy with we never passed them on to someone else. Right. The person who answered the telephone dealt with it and took responsibility. Right. They took the details and they said, I will come back to you. I will resolve this. So I don't like being passed from pillar to post. If I want an answer, or somebody asks me a question in any business I've ever done or worked in, I'll tell you the answer straight away, because I know the business inside out. I don't need to go to anyone else. I can tell you there and then. Many people won't have that luxury, but they do have the luxury of going to a database or finding the data and then coming back to that person without just passing them around this ever decreasing circle of knowledge. So then I thought, maybe I should be involved in this.
So was that the first time you had any dealings with council?
Yeah. Anywhere. Anywhere. Yeah.
You had no dealings with government departments prior to coming to Stratford?
Not at all. No.
And you
never thought the necessity to do it.
Right, you kind of like, I just get on.
I suppose that's generated by the fact that this was really the first place I'd called home since probably the 90s, when I lived in my hometown. And I'd moved around to many different locations in the Midlands, and this one really was the first place that I ever considered as a home since my childhood.
Right. So when you came to visit here, you felt there was something special about it that you really liked, and you felt this desire, this magnetism. You felt like this is it just felt.
I mean, there were certain similarities as a child and a young man in my hometown. I worked in the town initially from the age of 18. I walked to work every day, and I used to walk to work, and you'd see people on the street who would say good morning.
Yes.
You know, there'd be that great rapport with the community. Mm-hmm. You'd meet family members. You'd see people in the street who knew your family, who would greet you and ask, how is your family? How's your mom? How's your dad? And when I came here and walked the streets here, initially, that was how it was. Okay. You know, and I'm thinking, wow, this is like going back to, and it gave me that feel good factor. I'm thinking, this is the place.
I belong.
This is the
And how? Where do you live then? Where did you live then? You did still live in the same place as you in 2005?
Oh no, I've moved. I have to say, around the town, I've lived in many different places. Okay. Sadly. I wouldn't class myself as a wealthy man, so I've rented all my life. So I understand the difficulties there that some parts of the community experience. So I've lived in St Peter's Way, I've lived on Trinity Mead, I've lived in John Street, I've lived in Henley and Arden. I've lived in various, which again gave me a different perception and cross-section of different areas of the town.
Sure. Yeah. Can you hear all right, Mummy? Can you hear? You can hear. She's okay. Good. Right. So sometimes you were living close enough to be able to walk into the centre.
Yeah, John Street, for example. I'm right in the heart of that town. I can walk out of my door, and I'm in what I always call the central business district.
Right.
You know, that's the place where I want to be in every town and city.
Okay. Yes. Well, I live just near the police station, so I literally have. It's a short walk.
Yeah.
You know.
And Stratford as a town, I know we have a huge traffic problem, and if I look at recently, the last 2 days, I've seen a huge amount of social media posts about it taking an hour or 40 minutes or 50 minutes to get a very short distance. It's a town, really, that if you live within a certain perimeter, you need to be, and if you can, of course, it's a town that needs to be walked in and out of. And as someone who encourages many people to participate in physical activity, there is no cheaper and better method of staying fit than walking.
I completely agree. I don't have a car.
Yeah, neither do I.
Oh, right. Another thing
In fact,
common.
I've never owned a car in my life. I've had lots of company cars, but I've never actually owned a car.
Okay.
And then COVID, since COVID, I've not had a car at all.
Brilliant. Yeah. So we have that in common as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
But we didn't, as I say, we didn't have a proper conversation. We had one conversation, didn't we? We met Pauline, as I say, by that bridge, the little bridge near Lucy's Mill area. The Rushbrook.
Yeah.
Rushbrook.
In fact, driving-wise, I never passed my driving test until I was 28. So I never drove until I was 28.
Oh, right. Okay. Your chauffeur took you everywhere, didn't he?
No, walked.
Right.
So from 18 to 28,
yes.
all my jobs I could walk to.
Yes. Well, I think that's how things should be, really. I mean, why can't we all walk to work?
Yeah. I mean, I think there is a reason for that in modern day employment.
Right.
And I'm going to use now my hometown as an example.
Okay.
So I was born in a little town called in Willenhall, in between Wolverhampton and Walsall. During my time of living there, it had a population of about 28,000, which was at one point comparative to what we'd have had here before the booming house building. So Willenhall, through that area, and still now in a certain extent, is the home of the lock-making industry. So anyone who was buying a padlock, a cylinder lock, a car lock, for many years and years and years, it was being made in that town. So 28,000 population, 10,000 of those people were employed in that industry. And most of them could walk to work.
Wow.
And so the town centre during that period thrived, because a lot of that 10,000 people then came out at lunchtime, when we all got an hour's lunch.
Yes.
To go and shop, to go and eat, and then go back to work. So the demographics of that town changed completely when the employment disappeared in the recession periods of the 80s and onwards.
Right.
So suddenly that 10,000 drops down to 5,000, 3,000, 1,000. The impact then on the town centre is dramatic, because suddenly you've lost your marketplace. So you see shops close, premises go out of business completely. And what you have then is a population of 10,000 that need to go somewhere else to work. And so they look further afield. And then we become a nation, a town of commuters. And that's what we have here. So if you look at Stratford as a town,
Yep.
NFU Mutual, large employer, RSC, large employer, but not to the level of what we saw back in the 80s, where a town would have had huge employment, how I've just described. So the majority of people in Stratford drive to work every day and drive back because they have to, because there are no jobs here for them.
Right.
So it doesn't have enough employment. I was talking on Thursday night to a couple who are looking at doing some development in Bromsgrove Town Centre, and we were talking about regeneration and levelling up and creating better and aesthetically looking town centres. And I said, that's great, we can do that, but unless we create employment to go with it, then people will have no money to spend in those town centres.
It's very good point. Now, let's just talk a bit about, so you had some dealings with the government, the local government.
Yeah.
You felt like you were being passed around and no one was taking responsibility for giving you a proper answer to the question, and perhaps even when you did get an answer, it wasn't quite full enough for you, satisfactory. And I've participated, I had a similar experience. I've participated in council meetings. For example, when I proposed that the council declare a climate emergency, they just gave me like a certain amount of time, and they were kind of, I was trying to finish my sentence, and they were going,
that's brilliant, isn't it? But that's brilliant. Every council in the country.
It's a global issue, and you're giving me like a time limit.
Every council in the country declared that they were, but very few of them have actually done anything since the declaration.
Well, that's something.
And can they do anything actually?
Yeah. Well, I just felt it was, at least let's start with that, and then maybe we can hold you to account. If you've done that, if you've declared a climate emergency, why are you allowing generators to be run at these markets around town, running all day? And over on the recreation ground for the fun fairs and things, they've got generators running. I mean, that's not compatible, is it, with declaring a climate? I don't think so. So just one example that bothers me. It bothers me. So you then set about, you thought, right, I'm going to try and do something here, and you set about becoming a town council?
I actually saw what started that is, obviously there was a huge frustration of things that I didn't like and didn't sort of get good enough answers on. And then Stratford District Council put a social media post out on Facebook saying, do you want to become a councillor? We're looking for new councillors.
What year was that?
Oh, it was probably 2017, something like that.
I went to one of those, yes.
And,
I went to one of those.
And can't remember the exact year, but it was out then. So I just put straight away, I would like to do this on the comments. And then someone that I'd met through a networking in town actually approached me and said, "Are you being serious?" And I went, "Yeah, of course I am, yeah." And initially, my first point of call was that I'd always wanted to do, if I was going to do it, I was going to do it as an independent initially.
Yeah, right.
And the reason for that was I didn't really see myself as a political animal. And I'm I still class myself as a working class guy.
Yeah.
I grew up in a very working class environment.
Yes.
My parents were Labour voters. Everyone in our street was a Labour voter. But at the time, I couldn't align myself to the Labour Party. I never saw myself as a Conservative. And I'll be honest with you, I probably never voted in an election in my life at that point, because the politics really didn't interest me.
Well, just a point here. I found myself looking up words that we use every day, just seeing what the etymology is of it, what they actually mean, what they were meant to mean, okay? And I looked up politics, and it actually means the way in which groups make decisions. That's what it's supposed to be, the way in which groups... But it's come to mean and be synonymous with party politics.
Yeah.
Where you've got different teams competing.
I actually think it's almost like football.
Exactly.
Politics has become.
Which team do you support?
A modern day football.
Yeah.
It's very tribalistic. I've been a football fan all my life. And for many years, I had great friends who supported different teams, and we'd go to the match together, and we'd sit next to each other, and we'd have a drink afterwards, and there was never any hatred. In modern day football, it's, I hate Liverpool, I hate Manchester United, I hate Aston Villa, and now it's happening in politics. I hate the Conservatives. I hate Labour. It needs to be taken out. It's awful. Just because someone is in a different team, it doesn't mean they're a bad person, and it doesn't mean that they can't deliver.
Right. So this is one of my visions: is that maybe we've got so much that divides us, haven't we?
We have.
Brexit left the country divided virtually down the middle. The Brexit vote. Then we have party politics, so the different teams seem to be, all vying to get elected. I don't like them. I don't like them. Oh, I don't. The idea came from your side. Oh, we're definitely not going to adopt that idea.
So even Brexit's quite an interesting scenario. I mean, in comparison to what I've just said, because suddenly you had people from every team who did work together because they had a common.
Yes.
Because some Conservatives, Labour, were on either side of side of that scenario.
Yes.
So they could on that. In that instance, some of them did actually work together in the same team.
Yes. What I'm hoping to do here is go back to really that human level of things. So what do we have in common? What are our common needs? Because I think that's really what government should be doing, is addressing these basic common needs. We all need to eat, and we all need shelter. In this country, we definitely need shelter, don't we? And we need camaraderie and so on. So let's just focus on those rather than getting into the finer hair-splitting things. And surely we can agree and work together on
I think we just need to change the system completely.
Well, and as Buckminster Fuller said, you can't change a reality by fighting against it. You have to create a new model. And the old model becomes obsolete. So that's basically.
And if you think about everything else, if I look at my career again, I look at manufacturing. If I look at manufacturing in the 1980s, then you have processes called continuous improvement, where you're looking for the best equipment, the best technology. It constantly moves forward to produce faster, quicker, better quality product. However, in politics, it's exactly the same it was 100 years. So the system hasn't changed at all. There is nothing that has moved forward.
And in Parliament, you have the two sides, the opposition, and it's not.
It's static.
Yes.
It's the same all the time, every year.
It's not really serving us. I don't think it's really serving us to...
And the other thing is, sadly, is that it lacks leadership. I mean, if I look at historical leaders of previous governments or nations, incredibly impressive speakers and leaders. Who would have thought at any point in time that we'd have had so many prime ministers in such a short space of time, and not one of them is any good. But then if I look at the oppositions, it's very much the same. I'd be saying, I know, that guy's now better than this one, or that lady is now better than this one.
Well, I think that we can come up with a better way of doing things. And that's what I'm saying. Let's start in Stratford. Let's create a new model. And we start with a sensible conversation about things. So we'll move on to one example of a subject that perhaps needs looking at and could be improved upon. But you became a councillor in 20...
I stood initially in 2018.
2018.
In a by-election.
Okay.
Sadly, we lost Keith Lloyd.
Yes.
In that year.
I knew Keith, yes.
And so there was a by-election. And so I stood in that with about a few months preparation and lost by, I think, about 60 votes to Gavin Griffiths, who was a Conservative but a great friend. We became friends during that election. And he supported many of the projects that I've delivered on the table tennis in particular for me.
Yes.
And I shook his hand at the end of the evening. I went, "Congratulations, Gavin, but it will be the other way round in May next year."
So you made a
and it was.
And it was.
Yeah.
Great.
So I lost by 60, won by 100. So.
Okay. So that was in
2019.
2019, and you became a town councillor.
Town councillor.
Okay, and then it wasn't very long before you became mayor. You got your turn at being mayor. Is that right?
It is. Yeah. So
So tell me how that works.
How it happened.
Yeah.
Right. So in 2000, when we were initially elected, I remember standing in the room in Town Hall and thinking, well, I'm looking around the room and I'm thinking, I think I'd like to be mayor now. I think I could do the job. And initially, on entering there, obviously, I'd chaired many committees in manufacturing. I'd been part of Midlands networking groups. And so there are committees within the town council. You know, there's a civic and heritage, a finance, community services, and you vie for the positions. And so there were 9, I think, new councillors at that point. And of course, the first thing we came across was we were called the newbies, and of course it was you can't be a newbie, and it was
newbie.
Yeah, so you can't be a chairman. You have to learn your trade. You've got to. You can be a vice chair or maybe sitting on a committee, but you can't chair. And then somebody said to me, "Oh, and you can't be mayor for 4 years either." So I had a great relationship with the town clerk at the time, and I went to see her and I said, "Is this correct?" And she went, "Oh, but no." She went, "We changed that several years ago. If you want to be mayor, you can." He said, but then the process is that you have to convince the other 17 councillors that you're the best person for the job.
You're the one for the job.
And so at that time you had 18 councillors. I think probably 9 of them had already done the job.
Yeah.
And the other 9 were new to council.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I was shocked because actually not many people want to do the role. So, during my time in the 4 years, I think at every time we've come to decide who it is, there's only ever been 1 or 2 people who have been put forward. I managed to convince everybody.
Right.
And they voted me in.
Right.
So in 2021-22, I got the great honour to be the mayor of this town.
The first citizen, suppose.
Next
to the king.
Yeah.
That's what.
I'm going to be really honest. It's out of all the things I've done, that I treated it as a job. I gave up work for a year, and so I had no income for a year whatsoever. It cost me a fortune because it took most of my savings for the year. I was in the town hall every day as an office, so making appointments, bringing people in, talking to people who I thought I needed to speak to. I brought people in from like Birmingham Chamber of Commerce to try and look at improving business structure in town, and so it was a really enjoyable year.
Good.
I felt I'd found
that's interesting.
a position that really suited my skill set for the first time.
Yes, and I'm really interested. I want to make sure that we've got enough time to talk about a couple of subjects. Well, It's the bid and the festival.
Okay.
So I want to allow at least 10 minutes to talk about that. But just on that subject, if you like, of what a role involves in terms of time, or what it should involve. And so you were a town councillor. You have to be a town councillor to be a mayor.
Correct.
You took it very seriously, and you gave it.
I spoke to many of the people who'd previously done the role.
Yeah.
And many of them said to me they'd continued to work. They'd brought up a family. They'd done 3 jobs. They'd been county councillors, district councillors. And when I'd listened to them all, I'm thinking, I want to do it differently.
Fair enough.
And for me, I have to give it every minute of the day.
Yes.
So that meant I couldn't have any clashes with work. And so I made the brave decision.
Yeah.
I sometimes regret it financially now, but I made the brave decision to say nothing is going to stop me getting in the way of doing this role.
Okay. Well, that's commendable. That's excellent. Now, one of the things I'm a bit wondering about is how somebody can do more than a proper job of more than one position. We do have an example of someone in this town who is a town councillor, but also a district councillor, a county councillor, and was also on the board of the bid. Now, what
That's
do you think,
a difficult.
What do you think about? Can
I mean,
they do all those things properly?
Obviously, for me, as a comparison, during the mayoral year, obviously you can be virtually on the board of everything, or as and on every committee. It's impossible during that role to attend all those meetings.
Right, right.
As a councillor, you can again choose to be elected to what they call outside bodies, and we have councillors sitting on different groups around town, like the trust, the bid.
Yeah.
The ones that I chose, that I wanted, and thankfully I got, were the bid and the market forum. So then it's your responsibility to sit on those groups and report back at every town council meeting.
Right.
And I can categorically say, in the 4 years that I was in office, the only person who ever put any reports in on their outside bodies at every meeting, there may have been sporadic ones from other people, was myself. And I can categorically tell you that at every meeting, very rarely did anybody ever question me on any of the reports.
That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. You know, I don't know if we're going to get time to do everything I would like to talk to you about.
Well, you get on to what you want to do.
Yes. I mean, and it may be that when this video
you may need another one.
I may need another one. Just from what we've talked about already, there might be lots of comments under the YouTube video, because that's
I'm sure there will be
a place where people are going to say, "Hey, what about this?"
I'm sure there'll be a lot of derogatory comments. You know what I mean?
Well, there haven't been so far. We'll see what happens this time.
Yeah.
Yes, the subjects I wanted just to talk to you about, because that's really how we came into contact. Perhaps you saw what I was trying to do with the thing. And this is
you want to talk bid now then?
And the bid, I suppose. You know, it's obvious. I haven't talked to every business in town.
Yeah.
Okay, I've talked to a few, and when I mentioned the word the bid, they sort of pull a face. I haven't met anybody who's gone, "Oh, it's fantastic! It's absolutely brilliant! Yes, let's have more of it." So I haven't talked to a manager at Marks and Spencer's. I haven't talked to a manager at Boots, or somebody at one of the big, but the little shopkeepers. A few of them I have talked to, and they don't seem to have much good to say. In fact, I haven't heard them say anything good.
I think it's an unusual. I'm going to go back to the period of 2005 to 10 now, when I was initially talking to businesses. And I had no idea at that point what a bid was.
Right, okay.
But every time I got into conversation with a business, it cropped up, and people would say to me, "Why do I have to pay this money? Why do I pay this levy?
Right.
And what do I get for it?"
Yes.
So that's back in 2005 that businesses are actually, and now they're still saying the same. Why do I pay this money and what do I get
That
for
was
it?
in Stratford, though, because
No, that's in Stratford. No, that's in Stratford. So I came here in 2005.
Was the bid set up then?
It was, yeah. I'm pretty sure 12 years, I think, we've had of the bid.
Well, we need to check those details.
Yeah.
Check the details.
Yeah.
I think it was 2008.
2008 then, yeah. So up until 2008 onwards then.
Yes.
Well, it would have fallen in that category, 2005 to 10.
Would it?
Which is what I said.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's in that window.
All right, yeah.
It's in that window.
In that window.
Yeah.
Sorry, not 2005.
Yeah, so they would all say, why do we pay it, what do we get for it?
Yeah.
They're still saying the same now, and a lot of the businesses are.
Right.
I think the people that you've just mentioned, Marks and Spencer's, Boots, are a little bit aloof to it, because really it's their head office pay the money, don't they?
Yes.
You know, the head office just get the bill, they probably pay it and never even wonder what it is.
Right.
And we've had so many managers at Marks and Spencer's and Boots over the years.
Right.
It probably just goes under the radar.
Right.
Bid is an American creation. One thing that I'm not a fan of in this country is that we've accepted many Americanisms, as I call them, into the country under the radar without anybody realising. So if we look at bigger cars, fast food, casual clothing, trick or treat, bids, they all originate in America. Bids started in the States and then trickled out. You know, they've not had a great success even over there, but then people in the UK decide to adopt them. I think I can speak correctly that there are just over 300 in the UK. However, I'm pretty sure you all know there are far more than 300 towns and cities in the country, so they can't be that popular because not everybody's got one. So we've only got 300. And if they're operated in a proactive, professional way, they can be incredibly successful. Every organisation is exactly the same. Depends on how good the leadership and who's driving it.
Yes.
And if you've got a great managing director in place anywhere, or a great manager or a great leader, you'll have a great product. You'll have a great company.
Right.
So from creation, I'm not too sure we ever got it right here from day one.
Well, look at the Articles of Association, for example.
Well, the Articles of Association are a classic example.
Okay.
So whoever wrote the Articles of Association...
Who wrote those?
...is saying, you can pay me a levy every year.
You have to pay me a levy.
You have to pay me.
And if you don't pay me...
But unless you actually come forward and ask me to become a member of my organisation, you can't vote on anything.
Now, if you go to the BID's website, you can look at all this, can't you? You can actually see the articles, and I tell you what, you read it and you think, who on earth wrote this?
So I'm going to use a comparison there.
Yeah.
So I manage obviously a very successful table tennis club,
Yes.
and we have a constitution. So at every AGM, if someone wants to bring forward a change in the constitution,
Yes.
we discuss it at the AGM. And we vote on it, and then we change it. And we have done that very successfully at the AGM in September. So if everyone was a member in the first place of the bid and came to the AGM, they could bring forward amendments to the Articles of Association. It could be voted on by the membership,
Yes.
and then it could be amended.
Yes, yes.
So the whole thing has been written incorrectly
Well,
to almost alienate
Yes.
the membership who actually pay the money in to deliver the items.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
They are not automatically a member.
Yeah.
And if they want to become a member, they have to apply. But the board,
then
the condition is you
have to agree with the board.
You have to agree with the board. And then you can be refused.
So technically what's going to happen is when you apply, if they don't like the look of you, you're not coming in.
That's right. And they don't have to give you a reason, do they?
No.
They don't have to actually give you a reason why they refuse membership. So it's who wrote this, or who allowed this to, who kind of like did. So
But I'm going to be very honest now. I'm going to be very honest. I was a board member for 3 years. I think.
I know you were.
I never read the Articles of Association, and
I
I
was
would
gonna ask
say,
that question.
and I
You
would
didn't
actually
read
say that nobody on the board had.
Well, that's something. I mean, it's not criminal, but it's a dereliction of duty.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's just.
Yeah.
So somebody proposed. There has to be for a bid to get set up. There has to be a proposer. Who was that? The district council.
I mean, before the bid,
Yeah.
we had an organisation called the Town Centre Partnership
Right.
before my time here. But I've done a little bit of research, and that was actually run by a guy called Andrew Cooper. And Andrew Cooper now is one of the top bid directors in the country and sits on an organisation called the Bid Foundation.
Yeah. Again, they have a website. You can look at.
He left here and he then went to Bath and created an incredible organisation there. Then he was headhunted for Leeds and he's doing a great job there. He's still very fond of Stratford. I've had a number of conversations with him over the last 4 years. He still has a lot of connections here.
Yeah.
He helped set up or directed the route to the new bid. But I'm not sure who was the actual proposed. I would imagine District Council must have been involved with it because they were involved initially in the town centre.
Well, they collect the money.
Yeah.
They collect the money, and if people don't pay, they're in trouble.
Well, technically, it's like everything, isn't it? Yeah, District Council, they don't have to collect the money, by the way. So you could, as a bid, and I actually, when Joe Baccanet was manager, at a meeting once with him, I actually turned around and said, because they charge a fee for collecting the money, so there is an admin fee for collecting the money and then paying it back to the bid.
Right.
You could go to any factoring company, financial institution, and do a deal with them to collect the money on your behalf. And you could then probably reduce that fee or come up with a better deal. So you don't have to utilise that method.
Okay. But the council.
But if you don't pay, yes, they will. Just like your council tax, they will send you a demand and they will start the proceedings of legal recovery. And I believe they have done that with some businesses that were here, including the autism shop.
You know about?
Yeah,
I met her.
Yeah,
I met, and yeah. I mean, poor woman was scared out of her wits that they were threatening the bailiffs coming in, so she paid it in the end. But it's like it's a charity shop.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
I mean, in some ways, again, it's down to articles of association, isn't it? I'm sure charitable organisations, surely you would make them exempt.
Do the solicitors on Sheep Street pay a levy?
I believe so. Yeah.
So it's anybody over 9,500, I think, is rateable value. They have to pay the levy.
Yeah.
And if they don't, they're in trouble legally.
I mean, some people they've never got the money from. I mean, there are some things that are written off, obviously, because if a business goes into administration, for example, and hasn't paid it, you're never going to get that because you're going to be so far down the list.
Right. Well, look, I'm just conscious a little bit of time and everything with our crew and so on, and I think this is a big subject, isn't it? And
it is.
I know there's a lot of businesses who perhaps would like to be involved in a proper discussion about all this. And I'm suggesting, I'm putting out the idea that maybe we organise a venue, a big venue, where we can have, because there's how many businesses pay the levy?
In the levy, there's I think it's about 440.
440, so maybe if we had somewhere we could...
But bizarrely, if you look at that 440, in every election we've had so far to re-elect the bid, only 200 of them have ever... no, in the last one, I think it was, just on about 200 voted, so only 50% of the businesses ever vote in a bid election.
Yeah, right.
And at the last election, I think it was 120-70.
Right.
So 124 and 70 against.
So I wanted to get you in before Christmas because I know that the next vote, the ballot, is coming up in February.
That's an interesting scenario, actually, because technically it should have already taken place.
It should have already taken place, yes.
So what you will see there is just for a revote to revote the current bid, it should have taken place this year.
Yeah.
So if it takes place next year, it becomes what's known as a bid ballot. So it's just a vote of confidence in a bid. And so, and you'll create a brand new business plan. So I'm very interested to see what happens next year. Because I haven't seen a business plan yet.
No, there isn't one on the website. No. They had an EGM. Did you? Okay, so
well, they've been calling for an EGM for the businesses have for months.
If you look,
and they've been refused one.
Yeah, well, if you look on the company's house,
you'll
see there is, and I've got the printout here. They had an EGM at that Elixir house, and they did have an EGM, but obviously they didn't tell anybody. They didn't make it public.
An EGM or an AGM?
An EGM.
Oh, right, wow.
They haven't had an AGM yet this year, have they? They haven't had an AGM yet. They are supposed to have one every year, aren't they?
Correct.
An AGM. They haven't had that. They haven't published their accounts on their website, but they are on the company's house. If you want to look at them.
Well, they weren't due to be published until December anyway, and they actually published them early, didn't they? But I
Very
don't think
sparse.
that's a completed set of
Sparse
accounts.
information,
I
very,
don't
very
think it's a
minimal.
completed set of accounts on there.
No. I mean, in 2020, I have a set of accounts here in 2020. So they did the festival in 2019, and that was okay. So they were obviously happy to share the details of what they spent, a breakdown of the expenditure. So I've got that. But since then, it's got down to just the bare legal minimum that they have to publish to keep a limited.
Yeah.
So it's all a bit of a strange setup, but I'm just conscious that we haven't really got. We could do with more time on.
Oh,
this
undoubtedly. I mean,
and the festival as well, which didn't happen this year. This whole I'd like to share.
well, the festivals briefly. It's quite simple.
Yes.
The business plan from day one, which is what the business is voted on to deliver, is a motoring festival, a river festival, and a food festival annually.
Annually.
During my time on the board,
Yeah.
the budget for those 3 festivals was £90,000 per year. And the River Festival was 45,000 out of that 90.
Okay.
So from pandemic year to date,
Yeah.
there has been no River Festival.
Right. So
So
where's
that's
the money?
£45,000 per year,
Yeah.
which hasn't been utilised in the budget. So
And we can't
really
see in the accounts
what
where
you
it's-
should see in the accounts
Yes.
is where that 45,000 per annum has been allocated to in other areas.
it's not there, is
or
it?
is it still there?
Yeah, we don't know. We're in the dark.
We
aren't
don't know.
So we're kept in the dark. So we've got this organisation that's doing things, that's behaving in a way that's obviously upsetting a lot of people.
I mean, by no means, and obviously there's lots of people out there who probably say, I'm anti-bid. I'm not. I was a board director for 3 years. I'm not anti-bid. I just want the best bid. Everything we do in town, I want to be the best. So I want us to be top of the popularity list in that organisation. And at present, I don't believe we are.
No.
And just like we were talking about changing central government, if a business plan doesn't work, there's one thing you do. You change the plan. You have a plan B.
Right.
There is no plan B here.
Right.
Never has been.
Well, I think it's great that you've been willing to come and just speak openly about this. You do get the impression that they want to just shut people up. Even discussing it.
Well, that happened to me, to be quite honest. I have a friend, an associate that when I first sort of came out of council, kept coming to me and saying to me, "Oh, I've been told to tell you to shut up and not to put that out there and not to do this."
Wow.
And initially I did. Initially I thought, okay, I'm not going to rock the boat.
Yeah. Well, one of the businesses had a cease and desist notification. So it's very strange when an organisation is trying to shut people up.
Yeah.
I've heard it come out. I haven't spoken to every business. I've probably spoken to half a dozen businesses, but at least 2 of them, out of their mouths, when I talk about the bid, they go, "Oh yeah, the local mafia." That's what they say. I'm not making it up. That's what
But if
they
you
say.
don't make an organisation open and communicate with the membership when people ask you those questions, or if you alienate them, that type of thing begins to, people think the wrong things.
Yeah.
So if you're just open, honest, visible,
Yeah.
and answer the questions honestly,
Yes.
it all goes away.
Absolutely. Well, why is that not happening? So this is it's a hot topic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a hot topic in the town, and hopefully this platform will help to open that up to a proper discussion about it. And what's the way forward? Do we have to just accept them for another 5 years? Are they going to manage to, wheedle their way?
I mean,
back
the only
in?
thing I would say is this is whatever happens, whether they actually get re-voted in or not, whatever we do going forward, it's a team effort.
Yeah.
And I think the business is equally, whatever happens, need to buy into it a little bit.
Yeah.
It needs to be unified more.
Unified more, exactly.
And it can only work if both parties are willing to move forward on it.
Yeah.
So, say for example, it got re-voted in and they had a miraculous turnaround and everything overnight became great for the town.
Yeah.
The businesses need to buy into that and work with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it needs to be. So hopefully this is the start, at least of a proper conversation about it all. And we may need to do something else. So maybe you might be open to come on again
Yeah, sure.
with other people. Maybe we'll have a lawyer,
Yeah.
an accountant,
Yeah.
you know, and those kind of people, and to look at this thing properly. So I'm probably, unless anybody's got anything they want to say, no, they don't. Okay, that's good. So I think we'll wrap it up for today, because I'm trying to keep each episode sort of around an hour.
That's fine.
We're not asking people to watch too much.
It's been a pleasure.
It has been an absolute pleasure. I just, talking to you, I realise how much more there is to talk about and how much we have in common with our approach to things and our ideas and that kind of thing. It's absolutely great. Kevin,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed for coming along.
And a Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas to everybody at Stratford.
Yeah.
Right. Brilliant.
Are we off?
That's some music.
Running around California.